Hello, welcome to part 14 of the Angular Complete series Output Property, represented by tutorial polls. As we have seen, input properties are used to supply values from parent component to one or more child components. Opposite to input properties, output properties are used to supply the values from child component to parent component by raising event. So let's declare an output property in our user bio component first. Type public space on bio change semicolon. Now let's decorate this property using output decorator. So @output open close parenthesis, resolve the reference. Our output property is ready. But no, that's not it. In order to send values back to parent component, we have to call this property in our component somewhere and trigger the callback by some means. Sending values back to parent is known as emitting values. So we have to emit the value. To emit the value, we have to mark the type of this component as EventEmitter. Let's type colon after property name and then type EventEmitter after it. Resolve the one coming from Angular core. EventEmitter is of generic type. So we can specify a type to ensure that we don't emit wrong value. If you are not sure what sort of value will be emitted, add type as any, else provide a proper type. If you don't want to emit any value, just trigger handler, type void here. In our case, here we will emit a string, so let's say it as of type string. Now we need to create an instance of EventEmitter and assign to this property. Type equals new space EventEmitter of type string open close parenthesis. Under parenthesis, you can pass the constructor boolean value as true or false. Default is false. Passing true makes this emitter as asynchronous. We will leave it with default, that is false. We can initialize it under constructor or under ng-on-init, but it is better to initialize output properties at the time of declaration itself. Let's open the URL angular.io/api/core/EventEmitter. Let's see the definition first. It says use in components with the output directive to emit custom events asynchronously or synchronously and register handlers for those events by subscribing to an instance. You can visit this link for more details on EventEmitter in future. For the time being, just remember that we have to initialize output properties with EventEmitter instance and then call emit method on property to trigger callbacks or subscriptions. Alright, now let's quickly add a button in user bio component HTML. So type angular bracket open button close bracket, give text as change bio and wind a click handler. So parenthesis click equals on bio change click. Now let's define the click handler in our user bio component. Here type public space on bio change click open close parenthesis. Inside type this dot on bio change dot see. It is showing the emit method is available. Type emit open close brackets. Inside let's pass a string as user space bio space changed space from space child. Now let's define a handler in user detail component. Let's define a function as public on bio change handler and bio of type string as input argument. Always provide type which is expected to be received in handlers. Then complete the function and inside type again this dot user bio equals to value as bio. Here we are using the already defined property which we are also passing to user bio component by input property. Let's also include this property in HTML of user detail component so that we see the same text at two places. So type s2 tag and inside say parent title colon and resolve the user bio property. Alright, now we have our output property defined. We have click handler in child component which will emit the value. We also have the callback handler defined in user detail component. Let's add the connection between handler and output emitter. To do this, type here in user bio component selector, open close parenthesis, and inside pass the event emitter name which is coming from child component, or we can say type the output property name here. So type on bio change and inside specify the callback handler which will be triggered on user detail component or current component. Here in our case, this handler is named as onBioChange handler and pass $event inside to access the event object. Alright, let's save it and run the application. Run npm start command, let it build and observe the browser. Alright, here as you can see our first text being rendered in parent component and also passed to child component and rendered on the UI. Let's click on child component button. See, value have been updated in parent and passed to child as well back. Let's click on parent component button and see value is changed to the value which is assigned from user detail button click handler. Again, click on user bio components button and see value has been changed back again. Alright, so now we know in order to define an output property, we have to mark it using output decorator and initialize it with EventEmitter instance. We also know now how to define an output property and how to attach to handler in parent and also how to emit value. With that being said, that was it for this lecture. Thank you and keep watching.